Trust. This topic was from one of my dearest friends in the world, Margarita. Hey. Well, like everything here, I would say there's layers of trust. Like everything else, there's layers and layers of experience and beliefs of what trust can be. If we're talking of the mind, trust, as in trusting someone that they're going to be a certain way or that they're not going to be a certain way, that they'll do certain things or they won't do certain things, that's the mind. That's expectations. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we need to set certain boundaries and expectations in life, but holding too tight on expectations, of course, is why we suffer quite a bit, and especially in relationships, it's almost the killer, really, of a relationship, because because we're less, once, especially if you go in, which some people do, some people are more open in relationships when they go in, they're not looking for anything specific, which is a good way, I think, a way to approach it. But some people are very specific. If you see the dating circles and stuff, that's why they go on dating sites and stuff. And they have a list of this person has to be this. They have to have money. They have to be funny. They have to, that's okay if that works for you for the kind of experience you want to have. But as we can see, generally, most relationships don't work out anyway. So we see that's not working, generally. And we can see why it wouldn't, because you're shopping. It's not unconditional love. You already have an expectation, a huge list of expectations. So, including trust. I'm bringing this up because trust would obviously be in there. So, in the expectations would be that you're going to be this kind of way for me, and that we have an agreement or an unspoken agreement or a spoken agreement that you're going to do this and that and not do this and that, treat me this way but don't treat me that way. So we have all these expectations we start to create, and especially with trust. And again, there's no right or wrong here, but I would caution against mindful beliefs in trust and try to play with them and not hold on to them. And holding on to any beliefs can cause suffering and friction, because this is, as you know, Margarita, I know you know this, you're a great teacher of this, that this world is always changing. So that's the one constant. So embracing the moment, embracing what is the way to happiness, really, and to open up and really experience the magic that's here. It's by opening up to it, not trying to put it in a box. So, from a mindful point of view, I would say ideas of trust is putting it in a box. So if you do have some ideas of trust, that's okay. I mean, sometimes you want to, like say you want to go into a relationship. Some of us, want to be monogamous. So we do have a slight condition. We'll be honest at the start. We'll say, look, let's explore this together, but let's just you and me, okay? Let's not make it complicated. And that's okay. And if you're both on the same page, that's okay. And then you're putting a kind of trust that they're going to uphold their end of the bargain, which they may not, right? And that could come, and that will be a challenge you'll deal with then, right? For me, I don't have a lot of concepts that I hold on to mindfully of trust. Except I would say that in all situations, generally as my mind goes, I just trust everything and everybody right up front, even if it's obvious I can't. My way is to just show them the trust, and they'll either break it or they won't. And whichever happens, I'll know, that'll help me determine how our relationship will or will not proceed or expand. It tells me a lot, tells me who they are, might tell me how it may serve them. It may tell me whether it serves me to even be in that type of relationship. All kinds of information. It definitely benefits. So for me, I just hold back. I always trust right off the bat, even if they're a little sketchy sometimes. And I kind of know I'll still give them the benefit and trust them until they've shown that I can't really trust them in a practical sense. And then I'll forgive them and just either move on or just learn that we'll still be friends, but maybe in that area, whatever that issue is around the trust, maybe just stay away from there. Maybe it's money, maybe you lend someone money and they just never give it back to you, or whatever the trust thing is. you might just adapt how you behave with them just to adjust it. It doesn't mean just because if they broke what you consider as a small trust, you just throw them away. Maybe you just change the parameters of your relationship. So that's how I more see it. For the mindful, I pretty much just trust right off the bat, and it's up to them to show me whether, how deep or far that trust goes. But really, I just trust that people will do whatever they're going to do. That's what I trust. I trust that people are struggling and will do whatever they feel moved to do in the moment. And I trust that they'll do that. And whether it's something I want them to do or that's pleasant for me may or may not be the case. So I trust things will work out as they're supposed to. That's how I see it from a mindful point of view. That's one layer of trust. There's so many layers of trust, just like there's so many layers of any topic. I'm not going to get into a million layers here. I would say the next layer, and it rises just at the thought of my friend Margarita. There's another level of trust. And I know she feels this with me too. Sometimes you meet people, and personalities aside, traits aside, however the relationship has unfolded, ups and downs, sometimes there's people you meet where it's not a mindful trust, it's the beings recognize each other. That's a deep trust. That's a profound trust. It's also what we feel in with families, very similar, of an unconditional type of love, a recognition of the other being. So we also see that in families with, parents and children and stuff like that, an unconditional love. But even with just people we come across in everyday life, we will meet certain people that there's just a trust. And we'll see that. Years go down, no matter the troubles and trials, but even in the relationship, the ups and downs and the changes of the personality and the circumstances, those people will still always just have a feeling that they know this person, and they're rare, they're not the common, but they do exist. And in this case, me and Margarita would fall into that, and I'm sure she would agree. That we fall into, as do, I have quite a few friends now that same kind of thing, but in our case it's a very special one. There's a trust there. Not so much mind. It's not so much we trust that we will or will not be anything particular to each other. In fact, I think we've gotten to the point now where kind of letting all that go and expectations, which is great. So in our case, my friend Margarita and I, we don't put a lot of expectations really. Well, we don't put any expectations on each other at all. We accept that we're both shifting all the time, and we just kind of always there for each other. And there's just an unspoken trust, In fact, this is the first time I've ever spoken of it, but it's there, and she knows it. And I kind of think that's what she might have been thinking when she posed the question, but who knows? I don't know what's going on specifically right now with her, all the details in her life. Because there's so many things in each of our lives, you can't keep track of them all. I can barely keep track of my own, but either way, so I would say there's layers and layers of everything, including trust. But for me, when I think of trust, that's the two that pop up. There's the mind one, but of course with me, that's because I'm very much in the wonderful, magical struggle of duality of being and mind, and have been for a few years now. So of course that's going to be my perception. Is that the first thing I'm going to see when you say trust? Is the mindful part, beliefs of trust. Be this way for me, or else. And then there's just the natural trust that's, as I said, when you meet certain beings and you just know. There's just a feeling. It's not even a thought. And it remains and it stays, and it's not something that's going to change. And those are rare and wonderful, and I embrace, if you meet those people, hold on to them, embrace it. And if your mind gets in the way, I wouldn't worry about it, because they are what they are. Even if the relationship ends, you'll come back to each other. If it's one of those, so I wouldn't sweat it too much if you've had a falling out or if anything's happened. If you're feeling what I'm talking about, that right from the start, it's not anything to do with the mind. It's just this constant, always present feeling of recognizing the other being, feeling almost one with them, that you're both, one and the same, from a being point of view, from source point of view. So those will remain anyways, even if they temporarily fall apart or drift away. They'll come back. So I wouldn't worry too much about those, but definitely embrace them when you have them, because life is short. So embrace those. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about trust. Like I said, I give it up front. I think that's also part of changing the world, being the change. If we're all just going to be untrusting, well, what kind of world do we create? A world that doesn't trust. We see that, right? We even see it. Like, I laugh when I see Facebook. Everybody, like, I can get it. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to tick people off when I do a quick rant about Facebook. But you see over the years that people are really, I mean, they've got their Facebooks locked up tight with these settings. And I get it, because Facebook's been playing and the media's been playing with them and scaring them and everything. But really, with exception, there are some exceptions where people are being harassed, will get harassed. They'll attract certain people in their life, depending on what they're going through, and people will harass them or bother them. But in most cases, that's not really what's happening. People just start to rub each other the wrong way, and they just jump to delete or block, or they've closed all their settings so they barely have a presence online. They do have a presence, but you can't find anything about them. Even when you're friends with them, they have everything locked down, and there's very little information. What they do share is minimal, and that's fine. I'm quite the opposite, and there's some that are the opposite, where I want to live in a transparent, open world, where we're all open and honest without the masks and the faces. So I live a very transparent, as a lot of people have said, that I've worked with or that I've met, as soon as they go to my Facebook or YouTube, their very first comment when they come back is, wow, I did not expect to know this much about you. All of a sudden. I mean, nude pics and videos about really personal stuff and sharing everything. And so that's how I live. It's just a natural thing for me anyways, but I also think it's important because that's the world I want to live in. So it's about being the change. So with trust, same kind of thing. That's another layer of it too, is I trust, give trust into the world, not under the naive thing that, people aren't going to break it. Of course they're going to break, certain trusts and stuff and do things I don't like. It's going to happen. But by putting trust in the world instead of distrust, that's the world I wish to create, and that's why I do it. So I guess that's another little layer of trust, I would say. But yeah, I think that's it. I don't think I have anything more coming up about trust. But for the most part, when I feel trust, and especially as soon as Margarita asked it, that's immediately I felt it. Trust. I was like, well, yeah. As soon as, because it's her, right? It's you. So I feel a deep trust that is very rare, and with you. So thank you for bringing that up in me by asking the question. It's a lovely feeling, very special. And I think I'll end it there. So thank you, Margarita. It was a real treat to have one of my dearest friends in the world to pose a question, and a lovely question it was. And we'll talk to you later. Love you.